It is an exciting day, everyone, for today I will be visiting the planet Moho, the in-game equivalent of Mercury in Kerbal Space Program 2. More specifically though, I'll be visiting the Mohole, one of the coolest Easter eggs from Kerbal Space Program 1 that has been carried over to Kerbal Space Program 2. Now for those unaware, the Mohole began life as a terrain glitch centered on the north pole of Moho, caused by an error with the planet's height map. The Mohole is a steep, jagged crater nearly 5 kilometers deep and a super interesting place to visit. In fact, players responded so well to the Mohole that it was never actually patched out from KSP 1, and in fact, it was made into an official Easter egg in a later KSP 1 update, and now it's here by design in Kerbal Space Program 2, and when I got this game, I knew that this would be one of the first places I would just have to visit. And we're going to visit the Mohole in this ship that you can see me constructing before your very eyeballs. And I'm going to try and build a fairing. I've been avoiding fairings as of late because I could just never get them to work and they'd always glitch out. But I thought, you know, I feel like I need to learn. As a professional player of Kerbal Space Program 2, I really ought to know how to use fairings properly. So by golly, we're going to try again. And I think I did a pretty good job. It managed to encapsulate that really large round hydrogen tank quite well. I always assumed that, like, oh, it's going to be impossible to cover up that big ball tank with a fairing and make it not look ridiculous. And I guess I was kind of correct. This is a very wide fairing on this rocket, but nonetheless, I still think it looks fairly reasonably realistically proportioned. I guess only you can be the judge of that though. Let me know in the comments. Does this fairing look absurd or does it look kind of realistic? I don't know. And now I'm just adding all the struts. Struts are still very necessary in Kerbal Space Program 2. But other than that, oh, and of course the fins at the bottom and the paint job, I'd say that rocket looks pretty much complete, so we can do a nice crossfade to that countdown sequence. Here we are on the launch pad, quickly spamming the V key to get the horizon cam. That's my favorite camera, I think, in Kerbal Space Program 2. And then we can observe the launch. Yeah, not the fastest thing off the pad, this thing. It's like a 1.1 thrust weight ratio, so it's only just powerful enough, but we'll rapidly build up speed, and yeah, it's all fine. I finally learned my lesson. When I first started building big interplanetary vessels in this game, I would see the size of the hydrogen fuel tanks and the swerve engines and what have you, and think, I need to build a really, really big, heavy rocket to lift this. But obviously, hydrogen is not a very dense fuel type, so although we have a really large hydrogen fuel tank inside that fairing, it's not actually that heavy, so you don't need a particularly large rocket. I say this, obviously we have the XL-sized fuel tank pieces for the first and second stages, so I guess it's still quite big, but like, in my big, dumb KSP1 hardwired mind, looking at the size of the payload, I would just like always guesstimate that I needed a bigger first stage than I really did. And I've still got too much delta V in the first two stages of this rocket, but you know, it wasn't as overkill built as my other KSP2 rockets have been so far. Here we are, just doing our ascent profile here. Probably needed to be pitching down a little bit sooner. Like, I'm still angled at 45 degrees, and we're nearly at a 60 kilometer. There goes 60 kilometer apoapsis, and now our apoapsis is above the Kármán line. So yeah, I should have probably pitched down a little bit sooner, but it was fine. You know, we got 1,500 meters per second of delta V in this stage. Far too much delta V for what we need, and we can just angle downwards to start raising our periapsis. Well, we haven't got a periapsis at the moment. It's at minus 400 kilometers, but we can start bringing that number close to zero and then hopefully above zero by pitching down a bit like this. Now, I had a bit of an annoying bug where, and this has happened to me a lot, but I forgot to rectify it this time. When I test a vehicle and it doesn't work and I revert to the vehicle assembly building to make changes, speaking of things that didn't work, by the way, the fairings did a weird thing just there, didn't they? Yes, I reverted to the vehicle assembly building, made some modifications, and then put it back on the launch pad, and then launched, and that launch is what you're watching right now. This was like the second attempt. But when I revert to vehicle assembly building, the game always adds an extra Kerbal to my vessel. Look, we've now got 4 Kerbals, but we've only got 3 seats in our, like, return vessel. Like, only 3 Kerbals can safely land back on Kerbin. We have the 2-seat lander can and the 3-seat command pod, and a hitchhiker passenger bay that's just there to add a bit more realism. Like, that's where, I don't know, the hibernation beds are or whatever, for stasis, for like long interplanetary flights. That's just there for kind of that aesthetic. So my plan was to just have 3 crew members all inside the command pod with the launch escape system there, so they could safely get away from an exploding rocket that's, you know, very likely to happen in Kerbal Space Program 2, and then then the lander can will be empty, and then I would transfer a Kerbal across on EVA like I just did a second ago, and they would take control of the lander and reconfigure it Apollo style. That was my plan. But the game obviously added Bill Kerman or Bob Kerman, one of them, to the lander before I launched when I reverted to the VAB. And I didn't even notice till I was in space, and it was too late, and I just couldn't be bothered to launch this again. So I said, we'll just have to just pay our respects and just yeet one of the Kerbals, or we could maybe try and get all 4 back home safely. How we're going to do that remains to be seen. I guess you're going to have to watch the video. And whilst you're watching the video, if you get a moment, don't forget to leave a little like down below. It really helps me out with the whole algorithm and all that. Now we're going to time warp to a Moho transfer window. Probably should have done this before I launched, but it's not that far. If you draw a line from Kerbin to the sun to Moho, the angle that line forms at the sun would be around 112 degrees or something like that. So that's the transfer window I went for. I mean, transfer windows themselves aren't really as relevant when getting to Moho as they are for other planets and moons, because Moho's gravity well is just so low that you don't really need to consider the O-berth effect when performing circularization. So a lot of the time in KSP 1, the way I would get to Moho is just treat it like I was docking with, I don't know, a space station or something, and just get myself on an orbit around the sun that just intersects Moho's orbit, and then just decelerate at my periapsis or wherever to get a Moho encounter, and then just circularize from there. Because although that's an expensive way of doing things, circularizing a Moho is always going to be expensive anyway. And as you can see, we've got 13,500 meters per second of delta V in this rocket. I love that big round fuel tank. Yeah, that's just it's a bit easier if you launch at a Moho transfer window, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. And remember when I said that Moho's gravity well is very, very low? Yeah, there I was really struggling to get an encounter to appear when playing around with the maneuver node maker. But yes, that maneuver plan is, well, planned. So we can go ahead and time warp along to the start point and begin. And yeah, so I don't know. But the swerve engine doesn't feel as horribly underpowered as the nuclear engine was in KSP1. By underpowered, I mean, you know, the amount of thrust it provides. Is it just because hydrogen fuel is like much lighter that the engine has the same kind of thrust to weight ratio and all that, but because the fuel that feeds it is much lighter, that makes the nuclear engines a bit more powerful, or seem a bit more powerful? I don't know. I really need to look into the specs, but the swerve feels much more powerful than 5 nuclear engines in KSP1 felt. Don't know. I really should have researched this as an authority figure, as a figure who the public look to for a device with Kerbal Space Program 2. I probably should have just looked this up and figured it out myself rather than now asking the ether what it is. But yeah, that's how it feels. At least it does feel like the swerve is more beefy than 5 nuclear engines in KSP1 felt, but I feel like that's again because KSP1 nuclear engines were fed by liquid fuel, which is a much more dense fuel than hydrogen is in KSP2. You may have seen just then I was making another maneuver plan to get myself on a polar orbit trajectory around Moho. I love that we can now see our trajectories past a planet or moon with the KSP2 patch number 1 update that came out couple of weeks ago now. Where's the time gone? Time flies, eh? I still look back and think, oh, I was in Amsterdam last week, and that was when I played the game for the first time before all you peasants got to play it. Yeah, times the relentless flight plan of Time's Arrow marches on, I guess. I've had a lot of comments, actually, and a couple of posts I've seen on my subreddit. r/Matt's subreddit, by the way. There's a link in the description. Trying to promote that bit sometimes. A lot of people are asking, you know, are you ever going to play KSP1 again? Matt's abandoned KSP1, F, and all that. 7 days ago, I made a KSP1 video, I might add, by the way. But I don't plan on completely abandoning KSP1. I still want to play Kerbal Space Program 1 from time to time, but as a businessman, I have to accept that KSP2 views and engagement and subscribers are much, much higher at the moment than they are for KSP1. My KSP2 views are insane compared to the views I was getting for KSP1 content. Granted, KSP content as a whole is doing better, like I made my Val AI station in Kerbal Space Program 1 a couple of weeks ago, and that did much better on average than my KSP1 videos did before the KSP2 release, but still it didn't do as well as my KSP2 videos. So I think I'm going to do majority KSP2, but I would like to play KSP1 again from time to time because it is, although the KSP2 first patch has done a world of good for this game, it is still a little bit painful at times. And KSP1, it just works. Never thought I'd say that sentence, and it still feels weird saying it now, but KSP1 never glitches, it just works. Everything behaves as I would expect. nothing bonkers happens that ruins missions that are completely out of my control, whereas that's still not always the case in KSP2. And in fact, there was a bit of a mission-ending breaking glitch in this video that you'll see, well, when we get to it, I suppose. But here we are, well, we're not circularized, but we are in a polar Moho, I was about to say Mun, but polar Moho orbit. I then sort of time warped around, moving the camera around, trying to see if I could find the Mohole. Not that interesting, very nauseating for you guys to watch. We're going to crossfade to a point where we lower our apoapsis to get ourselves into a circular polar Moho orbit. And then we can go Mohole diving. Now, spoiler alert, I couldn't find the Mohole while time warping around Moho. So then I tried to find it in the tracking station by just time warping in the tracking station and just watching the planet. But again, I didn't really have that much success. So in the end, I said, right, I'm just going to go down and land. I'm just going to try and find it. And it literally took me, I'm not showing you this is like the aftermath of that. It took me ages. Like, guys, the biggest challenge of the Mohole in KSP2 is just finding it. It's like barely visible against the terrain. In KSP1, it was like super easy to find because it was a very distinct color. It was a much lighter color. It was on the North Pole itself. I've never once struggled to find the Mohole in KSP1, but it took me ages to find it in KSP2. Like, to the point where I just enabled infinite fuel and just flew my lander around, and it still took me a good while, and I finally found it. I sort of hopped my lander to a point above the Mohole, took a screenshot with Windows 10, and put it on my second monitor. Like, right, that's the point of, that's like the geographical location of the Mohole that I'm aiming for. That's what I'm going to go for. So I'm going to now try and explain to you guys where it is. See to the left of that crater ahead of us, there's that different, the terrain looks a bit different. I would describe it as looking a little bit hairy, right? That sort of hair-like texture of the terrain. The Mohole is there. You can just watch this video. This video is going to help me as much as you guys. So whenever I want to go back to the Mohole now, I'm just going to open this video and watch all the ads that play, obviously, and then skip to this part where it just shows you exactly where the Mohole is. Because look, I did this mission, and I know where the Mohole is, and I still can't see it watching this video. And I still had to do a couple of quick saves, quick loads during my descent because I was either overshooting or undershooting the Mohole. And I did have a bit of a weird glitch, actually. And I'm just saying this now so I don't get accused of cheating or using other sort of foul play to get to the Mohole. There it is, by the way. I used my cursor to highlight it. I know you can still barely see it. Yeah, if you go back to like 12:08 on this video, I performed a stealth quick load. Like when I quick save, quick load, I then splice that and then stitch the clips together so it looks like a seamless cut. But on inspection, when I loaded that quick save, my apoapsis and periapsis values changed. But the little timer on the time warp bar fit, like that was continuous. There was no breaks or there was no time gaps. And my delta V readouts and the amount of fuel I had also didn't change. So I don't know why that happened. So just to, you know, completely transparent, I'm not quite sure why my apoapsis and periapsis changed. I know apoapsis and periapsis markers in KSP2 can sometimes be a bit unreliable and can just randomly change, so I'm just chalking it up to some sort of glitch like that. But yeah, not quite sure what happened there. But as you can see, we are definitely on the final take here, because here I am touching down at the base of the Mohole. And yes, the Mohole base is much better in KSP2 than it was in KSP1. Obviously, because KSP1, it was never designed to be a thing. It was just a glitch. So it basically ended in a big narrow spike, so you couldn't really get a lander down there very easily. But now it's like an actual designed feature. There is a flat piece of ground at the bottom. Well, there is now. Initially, it wasn't solid, I'm led to believe. But now it's solid. You can land on the bottom of the Mohole. And yeah, we can plant a flag and get both of our Kerbals out on EVA, pose for a photo. I did forget to add lights to this lander. I normally don't forget to add lights to landers, but for some reason I did this time. And you could make the argument that this is probably the most important time to not forget to add lights to a lander. Here you can see me, by the way, on the map screen, showing you where the Mohole is. So there you are, future map, if you're watching this video because you're planning another Mohole mission. Maybe you're building a base in the Mohole or something like that. There you are, you're welcome. I struggled so you don't have to. I think one of the reasons why locating the Mohole was so difficult was because it was kind of always on the dark side of the Moho. It was always in shadow, at least. And shadows in KSP2 are so incredibly dark. we need to be able to increase the ambient lighting when you're on the dark side of a planet or moon, because literally you just can't see anything. It's pitch black, and I get that that's realistic, but also this is a video game about launching space frogs into space. It doesn't need to be completely realistic. I would love to be able to have some sort of ambient light boost for shadows when you're on the dark side of a planet or moon. This was achieved in KSP1 with mods. Like, KSP1 has this same problem, but there were mods for that game, like what was it? Planet Shine had this, where you could just boost the ambient light to crazy amounts. And I think there's a couple of other visual mods that have that feature now. I can't remember exactly what I was using in KSP1, or maybe it was actually added in the game, now I think about it. I think you could actually do that, but you couldn't do it initially. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I played around with the graphic settings of KSP1. I've got them how I like them. I'm not going to touch it now. But yeah, maybe allowing us to increase the ambient light levels of planets and moons, especially for the dark side, would make things like locating the Mohole and just navigating and docking and doing things on EVA on the dark side of planet or moon, make things much easier. But yeah, I just had to stop there because, you know, I had to get a good little shot to tweet. Follow me on Twitter at Matt. I'm shilling out all my social medias this commentary, it seems. I wanted to get a little picture just to post on Twitter ahead of publishing this video from the edge of the Mohole, and also because I just wanted to see what it looked like from the edge. But now it's time to leave this place and get back to the mothership. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I suddenly blanked. I was like, huh. What else do I say here? I did briefly consider stranding either Bob or Bill on the surface of Moho, so we've got a Blunderbirds episode to revisit or something on a different day, because again, I've only got 3 seats in the return vessel for our Kerbal re-entry vehicle, so I wasn't really sure how I was going to be able to recover all 4, but I thought, you know what? We're going to have we will try and bring all 4 Kerbals back home, which resulted in, well, you'll see what it results in. Had a bit of a weird glitch just there with the maneuver planner. It was the retrograde and prograde keys just stuck to my cursor. I couldn't unselect them, so I had to make another one just here to get to our mothership. But yeah, it's kind of a shame that the Mohole is back in KSP2. Now, stay with me, because I don't genuinely think that. But part of me is like, huh, it is kind of a shame, because the rest of Moho is really, really cool. Like, there's a really cool canyon. There's some other big ravines and mountains that look really cool. So it's kind of like a bit of a shame that no one's going to really visit those. Everyone's going to go to the Mohole. At least that's what I have done in this video, so I'm part of the problem. But yeah, Moho, and I guess, you know, all the planets are really, really interesting in KSP2. Like, I think my favorite so far has been Elu. Those, you know, massive canyons on Elu were really, really amazing. But even Dres, like, I was excited about visiting Dres to see the Dres Canyon and being amazed that there are now 3 Dres Canyons, but the rest of Dres is really cool. Like, it's got some insanely high mountains. I'm really looking forward to, like, visiting Juna and stuff. I've still not been to Juna in KSP2, and I've not really watched that many KSP2 videos, because I'm like, whenever I'm like thinking about KSP2, I'm usually trying to plan a video for it, so I haven't really had that much time to watch other players play the game, but also because it's really reignited my sense of exploration. Like, I've been to every planet and moon in KSP1 so many times that, like, there's not much left for me to explore, but it's like I've been given a whole new solar system to play in with KSP2. Like, all the other planets, they're also vastly, well, not vastly different, but they're all different from their KSP1 analogs, and like there's like so much more to explore now. Just seeing what the devs have done, exploring the anomalies, things like that. It's really reignited my my will to explore, I guess. Here you are about to watch the worst docking anyone has ever done in Kerbal Space Program 1 or Kerbal Space Program 2. I tried to do the Lowne lazy method of docking by, you know, have both ships point to each other's docking ports and they can just reconfigure themselves. But I went in far too fast, and then I tried to realign them, and then, you know, the mothership's frantically trying to stay aligned to the lander cannon's docking port, and the lander cannon's just doing loads of backflips, trying to kill its velocity relative to the mothership. It was a bit of a disaster, to be honest. But yeah, that's why I'm struggling so much here. I then, you know, stopped the SAS of the mothership so I could actually set things up properly to redock again. But yeah, like I was saying, one of the reasons why I haven't been watching, you know, many YouTubers play this game, aside from the aforementioned reason that I've not really had that much time, is because I don't want to get spoiled. I remember, like, wanting to the reason I wanted to visit Moho for the first time in Kerbal Space Program 1 was because I just wanted to see what it looked like. I was like, wow, I bet the sun looks really big, because I'm simple like that, from the surface of Moho. Let's go ahead and see. I was like, I'm here, and yes, the sun does look very big. And we've got temperature gauges showing up on the surface, which is pretty cool, because I guess this is quite a warm planet, because we're, again, very close to the sun. And just things like that. Like, I remember exploring the Joule system for the first time. I actually did a Joule flyby, and I was like, wow, there's 5 moons here. That's how little I had actually looked up about the game. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, we're going to relive some of those memories or experiences I had in KSP1. Here's a KSP1 experience I'm not a big fan of reliving, and that is the forced time warp limitations. I'm speeding the footage back 4 times faster than real-time speed, just for the sake of the sanity of you guys. But yeah, restrictive time warp has never been a thing that I've been a fan of. Like, I just want a time warp here. I'm not going to impact the surface. I'm in orbit. Please just let me time warp as fast as I please. KSP1 has this and had it as well, but I could fix that with mods, and maybe you can fix it with mods in KSP2. I should probably look into that, shouldn't I? But yeah, it's just annoying that that's even a thing we have to think about, because I don't know anyone that actually likes the forced time warp thing. And it's why I'm not going to visit places like Gilly or Bop or Pol, or basically places with super low surface gravity where you're going to have to spend ages just staring at the screen, waiting for your craft to either descend down or ascend back up or just pass by in orbit because of the forced time warp limitations. Anyway, this is a glitch. Has this happened to anyone else? I haven't seen this glitch like that widely reported, but it's happened to me twice now. I think it was in my, I wanted to say, Val video, I think. Maybe it happened in my Elu video as well, I can't remember. But it happened in this video as well. And that is when I form a burn to escape from a planet back to Kerbin, I get a nice maneuver node that gets me an encounter with Kerbin, just like the maneuver node that I'm currently executing here. You may have seen when I was planning it that I got my Kerbin encounter, and we do the burn, and the burn puts us on a course that perfectly matches what the maneuver planner said I would end up on. But then as soon as I left Moho's sphere of influence, I was on a completely different orbit around the sun. Like, it wasn't even close, and there was just no way physically for me to get home with the new orbit because I just didn't have enough fuel. Granted, I probably could have like engineered some sort of Eve gravity assist, but like, why should I, right? Look at this. I'm now so low in solar orbit, and I didn't have enough delta V to get anywhere close to Kerbin, so I thought, you know what? I feel like this is not my fault, and so I'm just going to use infinite fuel to get myself back on a trajectory that matched what the maneuver planner said I was going to be on and what the map screen said I was going to be on right before I left Moho's sphere of influence. So is this happening to anyone else, or is this just happening to just me? I don't know. I feel like it can't be just me, right? Unless I'm just doing something wrong that I've not noticed. Let me know in the comments below if this is like something unique to just my experience, if this is happening to everyone. Either way, I couldn't be bothered to try and figure out what was causing it, to try and fix it. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to use infinite fuel to get myself back on what I was going to be on and just continue as if nothing happened. So that's what I've gone ahead and planned out a maneuver node for there. Yeah, other than that though, this has been a fairly glitchless, like obviously there's been minor ones, like when I docked my 2 crafts together, it induced a massive wild spin, but I could fix that by entering time warp and then dropping out of time warp again briefly. There was nothing too majorly game breaking aside from this one, so it was like right towards the end, and this is why I'm still not going to do something insanely challenging, like, well, not insanely challenging, but challenging enough where if it goes wrong multiple times, I'm going to be having a really sad time, and that is like Eve return, and like a Joule 5, things along those sorts of lines, even like Tylo, to be honest. Tylo has a really cool Easter egg that I'd love to go and visit, but at the same time, Tylo is a really difficult place to go to, and I can't be bothered to get like 3/4 of the way through a Tylo mission before encountering some sort of bug that destroys the whole thing. I need to start again from scratch, basically. So, yeah, don't know where I'm going to go next in KSP. I think maybe Duna. I feel like Duna is in order. But I'd also like to do a few more things in low Kerbin orbit, like try and build a space station for the first time, now that docking isn't, you know, completely broken. I know I'm saying this right after I just brought up the fact that I docked 2 vessels together in this very video and induced a spin, but I could fix it by initiating time warps. Hopefully I can do that in the event that I build a space shuttle. And yeah, what else is there that I should cover in this video? Oh, I tell you what I should cover. Now it's just popped into my mind that I might forget about later on. You can see there's only 3 Kerbal portraits there. Where is Bill Kerman? He is in the craft, but he's in the Hitchhiker like passenger module, and there's no IVA for that, which I guess means that there's no IVA portrait for that module, but he is in there, don't worry, and we will be trying to save him, and indeed all the other 3 when we re-enter at Kerbin, but I'll leave that for the next. Well, there's only like 2 minutes left of this video, isn't there? No, just over 2 minutes. But yes, I think this sort of loops back earlier, actually, when I was saying I don't want to do anything too challenging in KSP2 because it's still not that reliable of a game. That's why Kerbal Space Program 1 still has a place, not only on this channel, but in my heart. Because things like, like the Life on Lathe was kind of destroyed by the Parallax 2 mod, because I tried loading it and it ended up glitching into the new scatter, and there was, terrain collision was on, so that destroyed all the bases. So I need to probably reboot Life on Lathe once again. I'll try and do it a bit more, not one thing per episode. I'll try and just reboot the whole of Life on Lathe in one video. Like, we deploy the ocean base, the surface station, and some sort of, surface to space shuttle transport system all in one go. That's not a mission that I would ever want to face doing in KSP2, at least in its current state. But in KSP1, I think it's definitely possible. Along the lines, oh, there you go, I was just checking the Kerbal manager there to make sure that Bill was definitely with us, and he is. So now we can go ahead and re-enter. But yeah, I think rebooting Life on Lathe in maybe 1 or 2 videos in total might be a good idea for a KSP1 video, or, something equally ambitious, because I think the days of a simple mun and back mission in KSP1 are over on this channel. Like, why do a mun mission in KSP1 when I could just do that in Kerbal Space Program 2? But something much more complicated, like a multi-launch, multi-vessel, giant dual expedition, I just don't have the mental energy to do that in KSP2, but KSP1 is always rife for the taking. So that's going to be kind of the direction I think this channel goes. KSP2, just making the content I feel like making. KSP1, just challenging stuff and just more difficult things, because that's, I think, the best use of that game right now. And here we are, by the way, attempting a landing. And hey, glitches happening again. The parachutes weren't deploying. So I was like, okay, maybe we could just kill off all of our velocity using just the swerve engine. And we did a pretty good job, but we still go to, yeah, it didn't work. So then I reloaded and I paused the game. And what I did was I right-clicked the parachutes, pressed repack, and then I deployed them again, and then they deployed. So yeah, I've had this glitch before where parachutes just don't deploy in KSP2. So I guess the fix is just right-click them in the parts manager, repack them, and then redeploy them, and then that should work. And as you can see, we got a perfect touchdown. So yeah, less than ideal that I couldn't land this vessel like I wanted to, just have the descent module. But, we gotta expect the unexpected with KSP2, it seems. And in this case, that meant having one extra Kerbal. But there is our landed vessel there, standing majestic on the Arctic tundras, whilst my Patrons and channel members scroll on the left there. It's their generous support that helps me to continue making this content for you guys. If you want to join their ranks, there's some buttons down below and on screen if you want to click on those. There's also some videos you can click on as well. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this little expedition to the Mohole. I certainly enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't know what it's going to be yet, but I will see you anyway.